Think insurance is boring? Think again. Many experts say that insurance is the most powerful industry on the planet. So join us and discover why the QUOTERSCAST is making insurance super cool. All right, so welcome to the QUOTERSCAST, and my guest today is Johi Sigurdsson, and he is the founder of CRANKWHEEL, which is a software program for screen sharing for sales professionals. You've been in the business for almost 25 years as a software developer, and 10 of those years was spent at Google. You've been part of multiple startups as a co-founder and executive. And so it's almost like your entire career has been building toward this this project, which I'm really excited about. And I've been going over it for most of the morning now. And so I'd like to concentrate more on the usage aspect of the software instead of the technical part, since so many of our audience are insurance people and finance people. And your partner, which maybe you can tell us a little bit about, is an insurance agent. And so can you give us some background on how you came together and created this?
Absolutely. Thank you, Renee. I'm really glad to be on the podcast with you.
Thank you.
And thanks for giving me the opportunity of spreading the word about CRANKWHEEL. And I'll also be really happy to talk about things that we've learned through interacting with a lot of insurance agents on how they're able to sell better, by using screen sharing tools while they're on their phone and things like that.
Oh, excellent. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely have some tips around that. So the origin story. So my co-founder Gilsey and we started the company back in 2015. And Gilsey had been selling insurance, among other things. Like that was the latest thing he'd been selling. But related products like real estate, banking products, those kind of things, mostly sold over the phone, sometimes in person. Sometimes a phone call and then driving to a person's house to actually sign the papers, that kind of thing.
Right.
And as you mentioned, my background had been at Google, and I'd been working on some technology in the kind of online meeting space there.
Mm-hmm.
And Gilsey and we were looking for a startup idea to build together, something in the sales space. And I think we've kind of reimagined every sales tool there is out there, and we discovered, of course, that they all existed. Until I asked him quite innocently, when you're on a phone call and you need to show your prospects something real quick, what do you use? Like if you need to show them some documentation or give them a presentation or anything like that. And he says, you know what? On a kind of a cold outreach call, you're never going to do that because the tools are too complicated. And that's really where CRANKWHEEL comes from.
Okay, well, this is a great entry point because I had not heard of this. I'm fairly new to the insurance space myself, but it sounds like a fantastic tool. But I want to understand how you use it because I'm still a little fuzzy on that. So can you sort of walk us through that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, the fundamental thing to understand before I talk about some of the use cases is that you can be in a phone call with a prospect, and they can be, your client could be very non-tech savvy. It could be, let's just say a baby boomer, got their first mobile 5 years ago and hardly knows what to do. It doesn't matter. You can be in that phone call and then say something like, "Hey, I just sent you a text message. Can you click the link in that? I want to show you something." You never have to explain what you're doing. You just go straight to a screen share where you can show them live whatever you need. And if we talk about some common use cases in insurance, the number one thing we recommend to agents that are using CRANKWHEEL is, as soon as you're talking with a client, open up your license for that particular state, have that open on screen, ready to go. And then as soon as the call has progressed a little bit, just show them your license through by sending them a text message or having them type in a simple link. Just that builds a little bit of trust. If you want, you can put your webcam feed on top of the license, sort of, so that you also get that kind of personal connection without having to request the webcam from your prospect. They might be in their pajamas, who knows? But you present yourself a little bit better by showing yourself in the webcam. So that can build trust, and definitely showing your license can build trust. That's kind of maybe the first step. Other steps would be, doing a side-by-side comparison, like visually, of different plan options, that kind of thing. You could have the quote tool ready to go while you're in the phone call. And, instead of confusing your prospect with all the different options that are available, if you have a quote tool somewhere, or you're using the government provided ones, it's your job to simplify their decision for them, right?
Yes.
So you could be screen sharing to them, showing them the quote tool, but then you might want to pause the screen share while you do something a little bit more complicated. Like before you bring up all the different available options, you might pause the screen share and just talk them through the options, the one you recommend, and so on. Choose that for them, unpause the screen share, keep going, filling out that form together.
Okay. So hang on a second. There's a few this is starting to sound like that software that you can, like Camtasia or Screencast-O-Matic for desktop and laptop, and it sounds like your software does something similar through the mobile phones. Is that correct?
Yeah, it does something similar, but live. While you are talking to your prospect on the phone, you can show them whatever is on your screen. You can show them your webcam feed if you want. It'll open up on their mobile phone, without any software download or anything like that. As I mentioned, you can even just send them a text message. They click on a link there, and immediately they're seeing your screen. And if you compare that to trying to use something like Zoom, which we're using right now, Zoom is great, right? But if you try to use it on a cold call, you're very likely to lose your client. Like they'll be, what is Zoom, or they'll be, oh, I don't have the Zoom software on my phone. Do I need to install that? And you might change a call that is going great into a call where all that client remembers is the frustration of you tried to have them use some complicated tool. You know what I mean?
Right.
So what you can do is you can choose something like CRANKWHEEL instead, where it's just, text message, link, they click the link, boom. It's, your screen is up on their screen. And it's similarly easy if they're on their computer instead of a mobile.
Okay, so why has nobody thought of this before?
Well, we thought of it way back in 2015, but it's been a slow burn. We have a really great business, and over the last few years, it's been really picking up with insurance agents, particularly health, and we're seeing life. We're seeing lots of growth also in life right now. That actually brings me to another tip in terms of use cases. Sometimes you have to enter like the social security number into a form, and you might be using screen sharing to help your client fill in that form. But it gives them, what we've found, or what we've heard from life insurance agents in particular, is that it'll give your client a great deal of comfort if you turn control of the form over to them just for that last little bit when they're filling in their social security number. So that's a really great capability to have. Like you say, oh, I'm going to give you control now. You type in your social security number, and they can do that from their phone or from their desktop, all without like interrupting the phone call or stopping the session or anything like that.
Oh, that's outstanding. Now, it puzzles me now why you don't seem to have any competition. And so far, I didn't hear about this through insurance. I heard about it through a podcast platform.
Interesting.
So, yeah. And so it seems to be still a little bit mysterious, or quite mysterious here. And so, and also, if you could maybe segue into talking about compliance. Because I think if, approaching a lot of these insurance companies, that would be a big deal, like collecting all that information through an app on the phone. So can you address that?
Absolutely. I mean, we do have some larger insurance customers. In the insurance vertical, by number, it's by far it's independent agents. And then after that, it's smaller teams, maybe 10 to 20, 30 people. But we do have some considerably larger insurance customers. Devoted is one. And in terms of compliance for the larger customers, we are able to sign a business associate agreement. So if they need to be HIPAA compliant, we can fit right in with that, and we have done that. In terms of compliance for the smaller players, like insurance, like let's say independent agents, now that you have to save call recordings for 7 years, things like that, we don't interfere with that because we don't actually take over the phone call. So you use whatever system you're already using for the phone call. You're using CRANKWHEEL only for the visuals. Typically, you can use CRANKWHEEL for audio, but usually you're not. So we know that a lot of uplines will make a requirement. You use this or this voice over IP system because we know that they can be compliant with the recording requirements and storing and all that. And we don't interfere with that. We think that's the best practice.
Oh, okay. Well, now that makes sense because your app is available in 11 languages. And I kind of thought, well, that's overwhelming in terms of trying to meet all the different compliance issues with different countries.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So it's just integrated into their system and all of that is taken care of on their end.
Yeah. So if you already use a voice over IP system that does the call recordings for you and stores them long term for you, then you're covered, and CRANKWHEEL doesn't interfere with that.
Okay. You also integrate with Zapier and Salesforce. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And for our larger customers that are coming on board, we also tend to build not necessarily custom integrations, but for example, there's a customer that we are in negotiations with right now, and they use Zoho CRM, and they use a voice over IP system that we don't have an existing integration with, but we can turn those out pretty quickly for larger customers. So that's what we tend to do.
Okay, great. So since your partner is an insurance agent, can you take us through some real specifics on how he uses this to gain more clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the number one thing is if you think about the difference between being able to finish the business on the phone, being able to get someone on the phone, get them interested, show them your license, and then walk them through the documents that you may have a legal obligation to show them some particular documents, and then you can do that over the screen share without meeting them in person. If you think about that case, you can imagine you could get through, maybe even 10 clients a day. In fact, or maybe more. In fact, some of our most active insurance agents, they will have 100+ meetings with CRANKWHEEL every month. And if you had to go in person after the call to, show them documentation, that kind of thing, or if you had to chase them, like, send them the documentation through email, and then get a confirmation that they read them or whatever, if that actually is, compliant enough, it depends on your location in the world, I guess. If you had to do that, you wouldn't get through anywhere near that number in a day. So it's about volume, I think, in particular. We enable you to close the deal on the first call. If you get the client interested, you're able to do everything you have to do with them, and at the end of the day, you can have them sign up essentially during the call.
Wow.
I mean, it's health insurance or life insurance, or it might be damage, casualty, whatever. But it's mostly a personal decision, so it's usually either just them or maybe them and a spouse that are going to decide whether to buy. So why not try to close on the first call?
I agree with you 100%. Yeah. So yeah, we're trained as insurance agents, whether you're captive or independent. The call is to get a meeting, and then they probably won't buy on that first meeting, and you want to get a second meeting, and then sometime down the road, weeks or months, sometimes they'll eventually buy from you. So it sounds to me like you've created something that you really can have a one call close with insurance, which is like revolutionary.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, excuse me. So I was also looking for a video that could really show, I want to be able to visualize it and see how it was used. And I know you have a demo button on your website. Is that the best way, or do you have like YouTube videos available for people to see?
We do have YouTube videos that show you how to use the system and walk through a number of use cases. We have a channel on YouTube that's simply called CRANKWHEEL.
Okay.
So you'll find it there pretty quickly.
Okay.
There is a completely free version of CRANKWHEEL that people can try out and use for as long as they want. In fact, it is free for life if you're doing 15 meetings or less per month. So you can do that forever without paying us a cent. So that's pretty easy to set up. Just go to crankwheel.com and you can sign up there.
Okay. Excellent.
But yeah, for sure, the YouTube channel has a ton of material, tons of walkthroughs of features and things like that.
Okay. All right. You also mentioned that
and in terms of go ahead.
No, oh, sorry. No, I was just wondering. It mentions that it's good for like the yellow pages, and also solar. And is that so that you can call up somebody from the yellow pages can call up a client and show what their advertisement would look like? How would you use it for that? Just curious.
Yeah, yellow pages. So the funny thing is, way back in 2015 when we started the company, right? Gilse had been working as an insurance agent, as we've talked about, and we intended the product for insurance agents. That was like the number one goal, number one thing we designed it for. That was, our sort of the persona that we were thinking of or had in mind when we designed the product. But then our early growth actually came from other industries, and it's more like the last 4 or 5 years that we've been seeing really strong growth in insurance. Although we've actually had people selling insurance all the way since 2017 who are still using the system today. But yeah, Yellow Pages was one of those first industries where we saw growth, and they are essentially selling digital marketing services to small business. So it's like you said, show you what your ad is looking like, something like that. What they will actually do, and this is something that I think really echoes what's done in the insurance space, is they will do a kind of consultative selling approach. So instead of calling you and just blatantly trying to sell you a subscription to run a website for you or something like that, or an ad campaign, but the most common use case that I hear about with them is websites. They would call and say, "Oh, hey, Mr. Plumber," or some small business owner. I noticed that you don't have a website yet, and it just so happens that I've built a really quick one for you, and they have sort of semi-automated systems for that.
Right.
And they'll say, "Would you like to see it?" And if the small business owner says yes, then it's like a crank wheel session, or and get them connected in 5 or 10 seconds, show them what you've built, and then it's a consultative sale where it's like, how do you like this? How do you like that? Do you want to change the color here? What about the wording here? They might even give them control, as I mentioned, so that the small business owner themselves can type in a title or change something. But mostly they're showing them the website as it's being built.
Wow.
And so at the end of a 15 or 30-minute call, you have this small business owner who's now emotionally invested in the website that they've sort of helped to build for the duration of the call. And you ask them, well, oh, by the way, if you like, we could make this live. This site could go live today. And the cost is only, whatever, $20 a month. I don't know what they charge, but a reasonable cost.
Right.
And it's a small business owner, so they can probably make that decision right there in the first call. So, it's a very interesting way to sell, and I think it echoes a lot of the ways you want to sell in insurance. You want to become their trusted advisor.
Yes.
And I think you want to do that before you go asking for their business. You want to make sure that they feel that you are the person that can help them with their insurance, regardless of, whether they decide to purchase from you or not.
Right.
So start building up that trust. As I said, the webcam functionality that we have, just being able to show your webcam without going into a full-blown, web conferencing tool like Zoom or GoToMeeting or Teams, which just fails too much of the time, especially if it's a non-tech savvy user. But still, build that trust, make them feel comfortable with you before you go asking for their business.
Wow, that's excellent. So it makes me think that there's other applications in terms of expansion, like maybe like healthcare. A lot of doctors and patients now are doing things like this. I think it's a little more secure than Zoom, but it sounds like your app could be used for that, or maybe life coaching. And have you started to branch out in that way?
Yeah, we have a few other verticals that are doing really well, such as wealth management is one, because then the person doing your wealth management for you, like a financial advisor, can easily be showing you visuals as they talk to you. So it could either be a new sale or it could be an ongoing sort of consultation. So it's used quite a lot for that. And solar is another one. So residential solar, where they're selling you, you know, financing deal for solar panels for your roof that's going to lower your energy bill, and show a rate of a return on investment type of calculator live while you're in the call. It just totally makes sense. You can show all the benefits visually, and again, it's the kind of decision maker where it's a homeowner, so they can probably either make up their minds by themselves or with their spouse. So it's not like you don't have to duplicate a heavy enterprise kind of or business to business sales process where it might be multiple steps and multiple stakeholders and stuff like that. When it's just one or two people who can decide together, just why not try to close on the first call? If they're interested enough, you can show them.
All right, that's great. But that half hour went very quickly. So this is fascinating, and I'm looking forward to using it. I also wanted to ask you about the use of yellow in your branding. It's just so rare that it's usually the main color that a brand uses. So why would you choose that?
Sure. Yeah, the yellow or orange, it's an action-oriented color, and it's associated with sort of innovation, action,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
Mhm.
We wanted. I will tell you the secret reason why the company is called CRANKWHEEL.
Okay.
It's because I enjoy cycling, and a crank wheel is a lesser used term for the chain ring. The part of
Yes.
your bike that you turn with your pedals.
Yeah.
So that's where the word came from initially. But the thing is, we wanted to evoke that it is a simple tool that it's a simple, powerful tool.
Right.
Just like the chain ring on a bike is. It's very simple, but it really helps give you power.
Right.
And you can actually see the other side. The logo kind of looks like a chain ring or like something that could interact with a chain or a gear.
Mhm.
But yeah, the color it's chosen because it's sort of this action-oriented color, and that's what we think salespeople are and should be,
Yeah.
is action-oriented.
You're right. Okay, so one last question. I know you're over in Iceland, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard how beautiful the country is. And I just think there's a lot of people here in the US who have not visited and don't know much about the culture. So I'm just wondering, can you give us a little insight to Icelandic culture, if you don't mind?
Sure, no problem. So I'll tell you the truth, and then I'll tell you the romanticized version.
Okay.
We are Scandinavians essentially, but we are here on an island in the middle of the Atlantic, and because of some historical events around the Second World War, where we were occupied by first the British and then the Americans. And also just because of our fascination with American culture, we are actually quite Americanized in terms of culture, food, a lot of different things. But our roots are Scandinavian, so we share a lot of values and things like that with the other Scandinavian countries like Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland. and our neighbors, the Faroese and Greenlanders. So that's sort of how I see it, and I've lived a big part of my life abroad in Scotland and in Canada and a little bit in California. So that's how I see it, sort of as an insider, but one with maybe some perspective from living abroad. The romanticized version is that we all believe in elves, which we do. So this actually happens. So it actually happens that they'll be putting down a road somewhere, and there is some giant rock in the way of the road, and somebody will point out that it's believed that elves inhabit the rock, and they will actually, route the road around that. So I think that's part of our sort of fatalistic attitude or culture, because we used to be a nation highly dependent on the climate, which is horrible, fishing, which it was very dangerous back in the day, so we tend to be sort of fatalistic. So we believe in some mythical creatures, and we believe in things just sort of tending to go our way most of the time. We have a saying called "Þetta reddast," which is a very famous Icelandic saying that cannot be translated, but it just means things will be sort of okay.
Oh, that's great. That's excellent. I love it. Well, thank you very much. I've enjoyed our talk, and so I wish you much success. And so have a great day, and maybe we'll talk again soon.
Thank you very much, Renee. I greatly enjoyed it. Have a great day, and best of success with everything. And I hope the podcast grows like crazy.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so too. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.